Hey, welcome back, guys. It's Patrick Robertson here at Momentous Building. Super excited as we kick off another project here. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna paint all the moldings on this house. The paint has been coming off. There's areas where we found some rot already. So there's gonna be a lot of scraping, a lot of filling, maybe those minor imperfections that's not quite rotted out yet, but it needs some repair to make sure that when we go paint this, it is a smooth finish. All right, so let's dive in. How often do you need to paint your house, and why does this have to happen? So 3, 4, 5, 6 years, depending on the weather conditions, depending on how the sun hits it, how much rain you're getting, is going to affect on how often you need to paint your house. Now, painting your house is extremely important. And not only does it make it look good, no one ever likes to see their paint chipping off the side of their house or any of these different things, but what it'll also do is add protection to your home. See, a big thing we talk about here is investing into your home. And to do that, we have to do preventative maintenance as well as ongoing maintenance. And some of the preventative maintenance is making sure that all of your wood on your house is always primed and painted. If you see some paint starting to delaminate and come off the moldings or the sidings, then that's some areas where we should get a painter in here, scrape it up, sand it down, make sure it's looking good, and re-protect the wood. Because the wood might only last 8 to 10 years if it's a pine or these other different species, but if you prime it and paint it, it can last much longer. There are some spots in the moldings that are just typical rotted locations, but priming it and keeping the wood sealed is definitely going to extend the longevity. Now, as I'm sure we've talked about in the past, woods like cedar is definitely going to last a lot longer. That's why cedar is very popular for siding. 20, 30, 40 years later, it's still going to be good. But if that cedar isn't stained, now that's the trick, it has to be stained and not painted. If the cedar is stained and sealed correctly, it'll last a very long time. Another area where paint starts to come off and actually invites rot into the actual wood is at the ends and the cut ends. That's why we always paint and prime the cut ends of the wood, because what happens is at the cut ends of the wood, the water actually starts to seep up into the wood and the grains pull it in, inviting rot, inviting damage, and making your moldings rot out a lot faster than they actually should. Alright, so that was a lot of information, but let's check out some of the areas where we're currently at in this project. Right now, where we're at is that we are preparing the house to actually get primed. Sanding, scraping, and then actually wood filler. We found a few areas of that rot like we talked about. I want to show you what we have going on here in the front of the house. We're 2 days in, so not a lot has gotten done visually, but there's definitely some areas where we're ready to tackle the rest of the house and start throwing up some primer in the coming days. Alright, so we're going to go over to here to one of these windows where we found some rot. This is a very typical place to find rot because it's at a joint, and it's an area where water can get trapped in. And when the water gets trapped in there and it can't air out, that is exactly where rot is going to occur. So we are looking at a window right here, and a very common place for windows to get rotted out is this bottom trim board right here, the window casing, the exterior window casing. And that is because when the water comes down, it gets trapped in between these two members of wood and then goes inside the wood and doesn't dry out properly. And what that does is when the wood doesn't dry out, that's when we get issues. That's when we get the rot. That's when we get, the decay of the wood faster than what it should be. Another area where you see these splinters going up right here is because the water sits on the bottom right here, and then it goes up and the wood actually sucks it up, inviting that rot in, and that's why you see this wood always splintering. Now this piece isn't rotting out because if you notice, this is actually a PVC molding that was replaced earlier, and that's why this one's gone and this one's looking great still. Another area where we're going to see it's going to be a common occurrence is at the butt ends of the wood. So on the crown moldings on these windows, that's where you're going to see a lot of the water and paint delaminated and the fixing needed. So in this particular window, we're looking at the same window, we see right up there where all the paint is gone. And that is because the paint started to delaminate, started to peel off the wood, and over time, it's because excess moisture just sits there, and that's the issue. So we're gonna look at another area with this rot, and it's a very similar condition. Right here, so this is another trim board. You see this one's wood. This was previously patched in the past, but you can see this is a poor patch job as they use some type of wood filler compound, that this is too big to use a wood filler. This bottom skirt board underneath the window of the window casing, another area where we see a lot of rot. Now, at the top of the window, like we just saw, here's a crown molding and a fascia board that actually rotted out fully, and that's what we're going to look at. So right up there, we can see the rot occurring. So, as you can see throughout the house, we are going around, scraping down these windows, scraping off the excess paint, and making sure that when we go back and prime, all the paint or primer that is there is fully adhered to the wood, because the last thing we want to do is prime wood or prime a member of molding that has loose and leaking paint on it that isn't fully adhered to the wood, because then that new paint's just going to fall right off. It's going to come off, and a year later it's gone, and that's an issue, and that's what we fight back against. So we're going to keep you updated on this project. For now, I hope this provided some information on, how to get going on your project, what to look for, and the preparation work involved in painting the exterior of your home, because it's not like just throwing new paint on there to change the color. First, we need to get all that bad delaminated paint off your home and fix any of those imperfections. Maybe it's a minor splinter in the wood, or maybe it's rot. For the next one, stay tuned. This is Patrick Robertson at Momentous Building. We're looking forward to this project and keeping you on the journey.